Hi, Michael. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Gilbert. Good to see you again.
Good to see you, and it's good to be back. And for some updates here with Total Metals, maybe for some of the audience who haven't heard about Total Metals before, just refresh a bit of memories. Give us a bit of a brief overview about the company.
Sure. So we started trading in August of 2025, so less than a year ago. We started with the Electrolode property. Electrolode's a critical minerals property near Red Lake. And since then, we've acquired the High Lake and West Hawk gold properties in the Kenora area from McFarland Lake Mining. Then we acquired the Mineri property from some prospectors down at Nestor Falls, close to New Gold's or the Rainy River mine. It used to be New Gold, now it's Coeur d'Alene Mining. And most recently, we acquired another critical minerals project in Northwestern Ontario.
Yes, let's talk about some of your recent acquisition that you just mentioned because you mentioned a few projects on hand, but recently you acquired Pig Lake, the critical minerals projects. Tell us a bit more about this. What's the strategic rationale in acquiring this
So,
project?
so Pick Lake on its own it's the second highest grade zinc project in the world. It had a feasibility study completed recently. The company that owns it has changed into Green Energy. It's an ASX listed company in Australia. So this became an orphaned project to them. I knew the former CEO when it was run out of Vancouver and Toronto, and I was very familiar with the project. And we were able to negotiate a very, I think, reasonable price, less than the cost of a big drill program. And we inherit 2.1 million tons at 18% zinc. It's a spectacular resource. And we expect to be able to expand and find other resources in the belt because we're not just buying the deposit, but we're buying control of the whole greenstone belt.
Okay, that's a interesting scenario here. And so, what's the potential of this now? You acquire, you pay a sum of money. So, what's the
Mhm.
potential? Tell us a bit. What do you think?
Well, so the in situ value is, it's in the billions already, and we've paid less than $3 million for it. So, I think we've got pretty good upside just on the acquisition. But if you look at what it has potentially regionally, if usually these don't come as one-offs, and this is right past beside a past producing mine, Winston Lake. So Winston Lake and Pick Lake, they're about a kilometer apart. But this belt around it has also little showings on surface that have never been followed up. So we want to get in there, follow it up. And if we can find another one or two of these, we're looking at a really good sized deposit, has indium as a byproduct, which is very essential these days for the military efforts and uh, for AI and critical computing power. So I think we're kind of in a sweet spot there. But part of the reason we bought it as well is we have Electrolode, which is also critical minerals, and the gold properties, and we're looking at splitting the company into it at some point in the next year, where we will go critical minerals one way, gold the other way. We might have one or two more acquisitions just to solidify the base and be critical minerals in Northwestern Ontario and be high grade gold in Canada. So we always have our eyes open. We had another opportunity that we wanted to invest into. There turned out to be some internal complications with the private company, but now we're all good with the projects we have, and I'd say we have three others or four others on the radar screen that we're looking at, and we'd like to pick up at least one more gold and one more base metal project, and then be able to split the company in half.
That makes a good sense there. You also mentioned, of course, Electrolode. You recently have completed a drilling program there. So, what are you trying to do there, and what are some of the results, assay results, expected to come back?
So we did really, it was a two-step campaign. One was going into the existing resource area of the Arrow Zone and try to do some connections from the Arrow Zone to the Garnet Zone, which is an up dip trend from the Arrow Zone. Those results I'm expecting sometime in the next 10 to 14 days to come out. The rest, the property's 10 kilometers long, and the rest of the holes are actually accessed from a road that almost takes you an hour to get from Arrow Zone to where these other holes are. So those holes will be released, I would say, early June or late May if all the results come in. And those were all exploration targets. So we did interpretation of the VTEM airborne electromagnetic survey, and from that we did some block modeling or some Maxwell plates, which give you these blocks to target into. And we've been following up on that and hoping to have some good success. And we were also at the same time looking for gold mineralization on the exploration side, because the property has never really been looked at for gold. It's always been for zinc and copper. So to be able to target a few targets for gold as well was kind of exciting. But the primary property is for critical minerals.
Great to hear. And of course, in the beginning of course, even the last interview, we talked about your being a Red Lake 2.0. So how's the work coming along with the other gold projects there? And what are you gonna, any update on what kind of work you're gonna
Yeah,
do on
I mean,
those?
High Lake's going very well right now. We have two people who are just doing the data work and targeting for that. Rob, Tim, and I. We have some high level targets that we're working on. We'll probably be announcing some news in the next week or two on High Lake, and hope to have boots on the ground by the end of the month, doing some mapping and sampling. And the same on the Mineri property. We'll get some people out on the field, and then West Talk will be doing additional compilation there. But all these projects would be on the high end of gold grades. We're talking 10 grams or higher on all these properties. So we're not looking at huge tonnages, but we're looking at good tonnages of high grade, and potentially a direct ship ore scenario where we're shipping the gold without having to process anything.
Okay, if you have a high grade, then you can do that for sure. And another question, obviously, you have done the recent acquisition. So what sort of cash position now you have in the company? Will you be doing any financing in the
Yeah.
near future?
I mean, it's when people offer you money, it's hard to say no. But our share price has been depressed recently, so we're not urgently needing money. I believe we have close to $4 million in flow through, about $1 million in critical mineral, and $2 million in national flow through, and we have about $2 million hard dollars left. So that gives us a good runway. That's more than a third of what we raised last year. On total, we raised $20 million, so we're doing pretty good, I'd say.
Good to know. And what some of the key milestones? Because you mentioned a bit of a spectrum of things of the project. So what are some of the in the next 12 months, some of the things that investors should be looking for Total Metals in order
I
to unlock the value of your company?
I'd say the First Nations agreements, we want to work with our neighbors and partners in the north. So having First Nations agreements on all of our properties will be key. And then for unlocking sort of shareholder value more, like that's more of a milestone dealing with the First Nations. But the unlocking value, it's getting drills turning on the gold projects, getting exploration targets and drilling started on Pick Lake, and getting back to Electrolode to follow up on results from this year's campaign. And Electrolode it's right now it's cheapest for us to drill in the wintertime. We don't have to bring in helicopters or put in bridges if we drill in the winter. If we want to drill, we can get a permit from the Ministry of Natural Resources to put bridges in, but that increases our cost. And at this point, we don't know where that bridge is going to go on one of the small creeks there. So give us some time to see the results from this program. We'll have a better idea of where we're going next on Electrolode. But the gold projects, High Lake, it's pretty obvious where we're going to be targeting. Mineri, it is just a really good project that has been underexplored and a lot of high grade. And then West Hawk Lake, there's a lot of compilation data that has to be put together, and some modeling and underground. There's even underground gold assays that we have to put into a 3D model. So it's going to take us a bit of time there. Pick Lake, all the underground work, the resource area, that's all already compiled. Now we are going to compile more of the regional targets, so the areas outside of the known resource.
Great. So looks like a lot of preparation work and also real, exciting works, exploration wise as well for some of your critical minerals projects coming along in the next 12 months. So looking forward to seeing those updates from an investor point of view.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to get up onto Mineri, because I feel that the first day out we'll find visible gold in the first 10 minutes in one of the veins on surface. So that's always exciting, and you get the little happy dance.
We'll definitely feel free to share those updates with us later on for sure, after such a trip happens. Okay.
I might have to send you a couple pieces of rock with gold in it.
Yes, indeed. Looking forward to catching up next time. And Michael, always a pleasure to speaking with you.
Gilbert, thank you very much.
Thank you.